The ignored warning. The galaxy had always carried stories, whispered across generations, written into records older than memory. Among these stories, one stood above all others. Do not go to Earth. The warning was old, passed down by explorers, by traders, by survivors who spoke in shaking voices of what they had seen. Alien civilizations repeated the same words like a prayer. Never approach that planet. Never disturb its silence. The records were strange. Some described fleets entering the solar system only to vanish without a trace. Others told of expeditions that landed on Earth but no one ever came back. There were ruins left behind by those who had escaped. Broken ships drifting in deep space, warning beacons that whispered a single message into the void. Stay away. But time makes even the strongest. Warnings weak. As centuries passed, many began to laugh at the tales. Empires rose, empires fell, and the memory of Earth faded. To most, it became nothing more than a myth, a dead world, a ruined place. Something for children's stories, not for soldiers. And then came the Empire. The Empire was vast, stretching across thousands of stars. Its fleets were the strongest in known space, its armies unmatched, its rulers proud and arrogant. They looked at Earth and saw opportunity, a planet in a perfect position, a world rich in resources. To them, the old warnings were nothing but superstition. They laughed at the stories told by weaker civilizations. They mocked the idea that a single dead planet could be dangerous. When the Council reminded them of the records, the Empire's generals only sneered. If fleets were destroyed, then they were weak fleets. If expeditions vanished, then they were unprepared. We are the Empire. Nothing can stand against us. The decision was made quickly. The Council's words of caution were ignored. Scouts were sent, and when they returned with images of oceans, forests, and mountains untouched by time, the Empire's hunger grew. Earth looked silent. Too silent. But instead of fear, the Empire saw victory. Across the stars, preparations began. Massive fleets gathered. Soldiers cheered at the thought of conquering a world so legendary. Commanders promised glory, wealth, and honor. The warnings were repeated once more, but the Empire only laughed louder. Don't go to Earth, they mocked, or you will disappear. To them, it was a joke. To the galaxy, it was the sound of doom. When the fleets departed, billions watched. Entire systems lined their ports and cities to see the warships burn through hyperspace. The Empire wanted the galaxy to know what they were doing. They wanted everyone to see that they feared nothing. And so, they came. The first fleet entered the solar system with confidence. Their scanners picked up Earth almost instantly, a blue and green planet quiet beneath the endless dark. Oceans stretched wide, clouds drifted soft, and the land seemed peaceful. There were ruins, yes, but ruins that told no clear story. Strange shapes, broken structures, half buried under forests and mountains. But nothing alive. Nothing moved. Commanders were pleased. This world is empty. We will take it as our own. But not everyone was certain. Among the lower officers, there were uneasy whispers. The silence felt wrong. The ruins looked too advanced, too deliberate. And there were things in orbit. Dead satellites, old wreckage, fragments of metal that still glowed faintly. The officers reported these things, but the commanders dismissed them. Superstition, they said. Earth is a tomb. Tombs are not. Dangerous. The landing order was given. Dropships launched, filled with soldiers and machines of war. They fell through Earth's skies like a rain of fire. The Empire's banners burned bright against the atmosphere. And still, the planet said nothing. On the surface, soldiers walked through empty cities covered in vines. They found statues broken, towers collapsed, machines rusting in the soil. They laughed at the ruins, mocking the legends. This is what we feared, they said. This is the great danger. But one officer, younger than the rest, felt unease. He touched one of the ruins, tracing symbols carved deep into the stone. They were not like any other writing in the galaxy. They were sharp, precise, almost alive. And though he could not read them, He felt the weight of the words. He turned to his commander. "Sir, these are not ruins of a weak people. These are the ruins of builders, of warriors." The commander only laughed. "They are ruins of the dead, that is all." And so, the soldiers marched on, blind to the truth. Above the planet, the fleets moved into orbit. Massive cruisers hung in the skies, watching, waiting. Their commanders grew more arrogant with each passing hour. They sent mocking messages across the galaxy. "We stand on Earth," they boasted, "and still we live." The galaxy watched in silence. Many who heard the message shivered. They remembered the warnings, the old words carved into forgotten stations. "Do not go to Earth." The Empire had crossed the line, and the galaxy knew what would follow. The silence of the planet was not peace. It was patience. The ruins were not broken relics. They were sleeping weapons. Earth was not dead. It was waiting, but the Empire could not see it. They had ignored the warning. And now, their arrogance had set the fire that would soon burn their empire to ash. The arrival of arrogance. The Empire's ships filled the skies above Earth. Their vast armada spread across orbit, a curtain of steel and firepower. To the commanders, it was proof of their strength. To the soldiers, it was a celebration. They had come to a world wrapped in legends, and they were still alive. Messages were sent back to their home systems, mocking the old warnings. "Earth is silent," they reported. "It is nothing but stone, ocean, and trees. The stories are lies made to frighten children." Across the Empire, people cheered. Generals claimed victory before the battle had even begun. On the planet's surface, soldiers marched through empty ruins. Towers of stone and steel lay broken, half covered in vines. Streets were silent except for the sound of boots and machines. The soldiers laughed at the silence. They carved their banners into the walls, raising the symbol of the Empire above broken human monuments. "Look at this," one soldier said, kicking aside a crumbling statue. "This was the mighty Earth? This was the world we were warned about?" His voice echoed through the ruins, but the ruins did not answer. The commanders ordered scans of the planet. Drones flew over mountains, across oceans, into vast deserts. They reported the same thing again and again. Silence. No life. No resistance. Nothing. The Empire was convinced. Earth was a dead world, and it belonged to them now. Yet small signs kept appearing, signs the commanders refused to see. Some drones vanished without explanation. Soldiers spoke of strange noises in the night, low hums beneath the ground, whispers in the ruins. One squad reported movement in a collapsed city, shadows darting through the rubble. Their commander dismissed it. "Old machines," he said, "echoes, nothing more." But the soldiers felt uneasy. The air seemed heavy, as if the world itself was watching. Far below the surface, something stirred. Buried machines began to hum. Power lines, long thought dead, glowed faintly. Ancient systems woke from centuries of sleep, sensing intruders above. The Empire did not know. Instead, they prepared to turn Earth into a base. Engineers set up camps. Heavy machinery tore into the soil, and great drills prepared to cut into the planet's crust. They wanted resources. They wanted control. They wanted to break Earth apart and claim its heart. From orbit, commanders watched. With pride. They mocked the galaxy with open broadcasts. "We stand on Earth," one general declared, his voice carrying to distant systems. "The warnings are nothing but cowardice. Earth is ours now." The galaxy listened in silence. On distant worlds, leaders and civilians shook their heads. They had heard this before. Others had spoken the same words in other centuries with the same arrogance. Those voices had never returned. Still, the Empire laughed. In one camp, a young officer examined strange carvings in the ruins. They were deep and sharp, etched into walls of stone that had not crumbled despite centuries of time. He studied the patterns carefully. They were not decoration. They were warnings. They spoke of war, of defense, of vengeance. The officer felt a chill. He reported to his superior. Sir, these ruins, and they are not just homes or temples, they are fortresses. They were built to last, and they were built for war. The superior only scoffed. War against who? These humans are long dead. Their walls are nothing but history. But the young officer could not shake the feeling that the ruins were not abandoned. They were waiting. Night fell across the planet. Soldiers camped among the ruins, laughing and drinking, their machines glowing in the dark. They told each other stories, mocking the old tales. "Don't go to Earth," one soldier said with a grin, imitating a frightened alien voice. His friends burst into laughter. "We are on Earth and nothing has happened." The ground trembled. At first it was so small that they thought it was their own machines. But then the tremor grew stronger. Soldiers stumbled, equipment shook, and the ruins groaned as if the planet itself was waking. In orbit, scanners picked up faint energy spikes deep beneath the surface. The commanders frowned. Seismic activity, they decided. Nothing to fear. But the readings grew. Lines of energy stretched across the planet like veins of fire. Dead satellites in orbit flickered to life, their signals bouncing between them. The Empire's scanners screamed with interference. "Something's wrong," one technician muttered. The commanders ignored him. "Continue the drilling. Increase the landing forces." And so more ships descended, their engines burning through the skies, their shadows falling across Earth's surface. The Empire poured more men, more machines, more arrogance into the planet. The young officer watched from his camp as lights appeared in the ruins. Old towers glowed faintly, symbols pulsed in stone, and walls that had stood quiet for centuries shone like fire. His heart pounded. He knew the truth, though no one would listen. The warnings had not been lies. The planet was not dead. Earth was alive, and it was waiting. The Empire's laughter echoed one last time before it was drowned out by the sound of awakening. Shadows of humanity. The Empire believed they had conquered Earth. Their soldiers built camps across the ruins, their engineers dug into the soil, and their commanders boasted of victory. To them, the silence of the planet was proof that humanity was gone forever. But silence can hide many things. It began with whispers on the comms. Soldiers reported strange signals on their radios, faint voices in languages no translator could decode. Static filled their helmets at night, sometimes shaping into words that chilled their blood. "Leave. Run. You should not be here." The commanders dismissed it as interference, but the soldiers grew restless. Then came the shadows. Patrols vanished in the ruins. Squads sent into collapsed cities never returned. When search parties went after them, they found nothing. No bodies, no weapons, no sign of struggle. Only empty streets, as if the soldiers had melted into the stone. One squad swore they saw movement inside a ruined tower. Shapes too fast, too precise, darting through the dark. They opened fire, but their shots hit nothing. When their lights flickered on, the tower was empty again. Their commander told them it was fear playing tricks. But the squad never slept again. Beneath the planet's crust, machines stirred. Power lines glowed faintly like veins of fire spreading under mountains and oceans. Old bunkers, long thought to be collapsed, sealed themselves shut. From orbit, Imperial scanners caught fragments of energy pulses, but the commanders dismissed them as natural readings. They did not understand what they had woken. Deep in the ruins, an old human satellite activated. Its lenses cracked but still functional. It turned toward the alien warships in orbit and sent a signal. The message was short, repeating again and again. Intruders detected, defense protocol active. The Empire ignored it. And then the first strike came. In the middle of the night, a forward base near a great canyon lost all power. Lights went dark, machines fell silent, and soldiers scrambled in confusion. Before they could repair their systems, the ground opened beneath them. Great metal claws, ancient war machines hidden for centuries, rose from the earth. They were not sleek like the Empire's machines. They were brutal, scarred, and built for one purpose: destruction. The base was gone in minutes. Entire battalions erased before they could even fire. From orbit, commanders watched in shock as their screens showed a single mark where the base had been. Not wreckage, not survivors, just silence. Unknown enemy force, the technicians reported. But it was not unknown. Not really. The galaxy had always known. Other bases soon followed. Old satellites began firing beams of light that pierced the sky, cutting through Imperial dropships like knives. Weapons buried under mountains launched projectiles that shattered cruisers in orbit. Oceans boiled as hidden submarines, black as night, rose and struck at the Empire's war fleets. The humans had not vanished. They had hidden their power deep, within their world. And now they were awake. Soldiers on the ground screamed as ruins lit up with glowing lines, ancient symbols pulsing like living fire. Towers that had been broken for centuries straightened as mechanisms within repaired them. Streets shifted, walls unfolded, and cities long dead began to breathe with light once more. "This is impossible," one general shouted from orbit. "No species could hide this much power." But another officer whispered the truth. This is why the warnings were given. They were not myths, they were history. The shadows of humanity were no longer just whispers. They were war machines, satellites, bunkers, fleets hidden under oceans and mountains. Every piece of Earth was a weapon, every ruin a fortress waiting to wake. And still, the Empire laughed no more. Fear spread through the soldiers. They had mocked Earth. They had mocked the galaxy's warnings. But now they saw the truth with their own eyes. Humanity had not been destroyed. Humanity had been waiting for someone foolish enough to come. One young officer, the same who had studied the carvings, now stood trembling as the ruins glowed around him. "We are not the conquerors here," he said. "We are the intruders." In orbit, Imperial fleets tried to regroup, but their formations were broken, their commanders panicked. Every time they thought they had control, another hidden weapon rose from Earth and struck them down. And above it all, faint signals began to spread across the galaxy. Ancient human codes, long thought erased, now echoed once more through hyperspace. Civilizations far away heard them and trembled. The humans were speaking again, not with words of peace, not with diplomacy, but with the voice of war. The shadows of humanity had awakened, and the Empire was the first to face their wrath. The fire unleashed. The Empire's laughter had ended. Fear now filled their fleets, but pride kept them from retreat. Their commanders shouted orders, their soldiers tried to hold their ground, but the truth was clear. Earth was no longer silent. From the deep oceans, massive structures rose. Towers of black steel erupted from the waves, spraying fire and water into the sky. Submarines shaped like beasts of war surfaced and opened their weapon bays. In the mountains, colossal doors cracked open, releasing hidden ships that had slept for centuries. From orbit, scanners recorded impossible numbers of signals. Humanity had not vanished. Humanity had buried itself inside its world. Every mountain, every ocean, every crater was a fortress. Earth was not a dead planet. It was the heart of a war machine. The first strike came from the moon. Craters split apart as cannons larger than cities fired beams of light that tore through the Empire's cruisers. Ships that had once been symbols of power were reduced to burning wrecks in seconds. The sky glowed with fire as explosions lit the void. The Empire tried to respond, but their weapons were clumsy compared to the precision of Earth's fury. Every move they made was countered. Before it even began, their fleets had numbers, but numbers did not matter when each human shot cut through their strongest armor. On the surface, soldiers screamed as ruins transformed around them. Broken towers reshaped themselves, glowing lines spreading across, their walls as hidden weapons unfolded. Streets split apart, revealing launch bays beneath. Machines unlike anything the galaxy had seen before walked out of the Earth, their metal bodies scarred but indestructible. Imperial battalions fought, bravely, but bravery meant nothing. They fired, but their weapons only scratched the surface of human war machines. In return, the machines struck once, and entire units vanished in fire. Above the planet, the main human fleet revealed itself. Ships black as night, their hulls scarred with the history of old wars. They moved with perfect precision, engines glowing like blue fire. Each vessel carried weapons the Empire had no name for, beams that cut through warships, missiles that split into storms of fire, railguns that struck with the force of planets. The galaxy had whispered that humanity was dangerous. Now, those whispers screamed into truth. Imperial commanders begged their soldiers to regroup, but panic spread faster than orders. Fleets broke apart, some trying to escape, others charging blindly into battle. Both choices ended the same: destruction. One Imperial general shouted into the comms, "Hold the line! They are only machines! Break their fleet!" But his voice ended in static as his ship vanished in an explosion of light. The humans said nothing. They sent no warnings, no demands, no mercy. They fought in silence, their actions sharper than words. Each movement was exact, every strike cold and final. From the colony that had first watched Earth awaken, survivors stared at the battle unfolding in the skies. They could see the human fleet cutting through the Empire's armada like predators through prey. Children cried out in awe, elders whispered old legends, and leaders trembled. They had been saved, but they understood the truth. This was not salvation. This was vengeance. Across the galaxy, signals spread of the impossible sight. Billions watched in shock as recordings showed Earth's fleet overwhelming the Empire. No one had believed the warnings before. Now no one could deny them. Earth was not a myth. Humanity was not gone. The fire had been unleashed. When the last of the Empire's ships in orbit burned, silence returned for a moment. The stars glowed, with wreckage, debris falling into Earth's atmosphere like meteors. Imperial survivors screamed on open channels, begging for retreat, begging for orders, begging for their lives. No answer came. The humans did not pursue the fleeing fragments of the Empire. They did not speak to the galaxy. Their ships simply turned, weapons glowing, engines burning, preparing for the next target. And in that silence, the galaxy understood something terrifying. Humanity had not only defended its world, humanity was ready to burn empires. The fire had begun on Earth, but it would not end there. The Empire burns. The galaxy had watched in silence as Earth awakened. The ruins had risen, the fleets had returned, and the Empire's laughter had turned to screams. But humanity was not finished. What began as defense was now war. The survivors of the first battles fled across hyperspace, carrying stories of impossible power. They spoke of ships black as night, weapons that cut through fleets like paper, and a world that was not a tomb but a fortress. Their words spread faster than light, carried to every empire, every world. The message was always the same: Earth lives and Earth burns. The Empire tried to rally. They gathered their greatest armadas, calling ships from every conquered system. Their leaders promised revenge, swore they would crush the humans before the galaxy turned against them. Billions watched as the Empire's banners were raised high, declaring their strength. But no banners, no pride, no numbers could stop what was coming. The humans struck first. They did not announce their attack. They did not give warnings. Across dozens of systems, human fleets emerged from hyperspace like shadows. Entire garrisons were destroyed before they could fire a shot. Imperial strongholds fell in hours. Worlds that had flown the Empire's flag for centuries now looked up and saw the black steel of Earth's ships glowing with cold fire. The galaxy trembled. In the council halls, leaders argued no longer. There was no debate. There was only fear. Some whispered that humanity would destroy the Empire and then vanish again, leaving silence behind. Others feared they would not stop, that after the Empire, the rest of the galaxy would burn. No one knew, because the humans remained silent. Their ships spoke for them, and their language was war. The Empire's last stand came in a system of 7 suns. Their fleets stretched across the light. Thousands of ships, their strongest weapons, their proudest soldiers. It was meant to be unbreakable. The humans broke it in a single day. Their fleets moved with terrifying unity, every strike perfect, every ship a piece of a larger design. Imperial formations shattered, their weapons useless against Earth's precision. Carriers burned, dreadnoughts split apart, stations crumbled. The battle was not a fight. It was an execution. One Imperial commander, his ship engulfed in flames, sent a final message to the galaxy before he died. His words were clear, heavy with terror. We were warned. We laughed. And now we burn. When the last Imperial ship was gone, silence filled the system. Debris drifted like ash across the suns. The humans stood alone, their fleet glowing against the light. They did not cheer. They did not speak. They simply turned, as one, and vanished into the void. The Empire was finished. Its worlds fell into chaos, its leaders dead or fleeing, its name reduced to dust. The galaxy should have celebrated, but instead it shivered. For while the enemy was gone, humanity remained. On distant colonies, children asked their parents, "Will the humans protect us now?" And the parents had no answer, for the humans had not come as saviors. They had come as warriors. Their silence was heavier than any promise. The old warnings, once mocked, were now carved into memory. Do not go to Earth. Those who had ignored it were gone, their empires reduced to ruin. And now every world, every species, every leader understood. The warning had never been about Earth itself. It had been about humanity. They were not prey. They were not myths. They were the fire that burned empires, and the galaxy knew one truth it would never forget. The Empire laughed at the warning. The Empire went to Earth, and the Empire burned.